next state that's getting one. The group says, quote, when mankind turns back to Christ the King, our society will be transformed. So far, billboards have been set up in Texas, Nebraska, Minnesota, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and New Jersey. Michael Harrington reporting.
The Olympic flame isn't the only symbol of triumph and transcendence on display at the Winter Games in Milan Cortina this month. The Cross of the Athletes has arrived at the site and has been set up at a local church. English artist John Cornwall used 15 pieces of wood from continents around the world to craft the cross, which made its grand debut at the London Olympics back in 2012. This is SRN News. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sent to pay a visit to the White House today as the U.S. engages in talks with Iran over its nuclear program. More details from White House correspondent Greg Clugston.
Days after the Trump administration resumed nuclear negotiations with Iran, Netanyahu will encourage the president to expand the scope of those high-stakes talks. The prime minister has long pushed for stronger U.S. action toward the Iranian regime, including a call for an end to all uranium enrichment. But Iran has always rejected the Israeli demands, saying it would only accept some limits on its nuclear program. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Paramount is intensifying its efforts to take over Warner Brothers Discovery. Yesterday, the company offered Warner shareholders an added ticking fee if the deal does not close by the end of the year. Paramount also pledged to fund Warner's proposed breakup of Netflix. More at srnnews.com.
Psalm 36 and verse 5. Thy mercy, O Lord, is in the heavens, and thy faithfulness reacheth unto the clouds. Rejoicing in God's mercy and faithfulness, in God's Word, the Bible, Psalm 36 and verse 5.
Did you know VCY has a birthday club for boys and girls under the age of 12? You can enroll your children at vcybirthdayclub.com. That's vcybirthdayclub.com.
VCY America is KVCX Gregory and WVIW Bridgeport. Christian Information Radio.
History was made on today's date. Stay tuned for an American Minute with Bill Federer.
On February 11th, 1861, newly elected President Abraham Lincoln delivered a farewell speech in Springfield, Illinois, as he left for Washington, D.C. Lincoln stated, "I now leave, not knowing when or whether I may return, with a task before me greater than that which rested upon Washington." Abraham Lincoln continued, "Without the assistance of that divine being who ever attended him, I cannot succeed. With that assistance, I cannot fail. Trusting in him who can go with me and remain with you and be everywhere for good, let us confidently hope that all will yet be well."
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD. VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And friends, thank you for carving out the time and joining us on Crosstalk as we seek to keep you informed on many critical issues. I've got some questions I'd like to ask you today. Did you know that New York City has had a shocking rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes since Muslim Mayor Zoran Mamdani took office? Did you know that there are reports coming out of Texas of a small-town takeover by Islamic immigrants? Speaking of Texas, did you know it's reported that a Muslim outreach group with ties to anti-Christian ideology distributed Qurans and hijabs on campus? Did you know the Attorney General of Texas recently filed a lawsuit against the Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American Islamic Relations from operating in Texas? Did you know a Senate panel in Arizona has voted to ban the use of Sharia in the state of Arizona? And did you know that a Muslim state senator in Virginia has introduced legislation defining and criminalizing Islamophobia? Well, we have this and so much more to discuss on today's program on the topic here of Islam impacting the United States. Joining us, we have Shahram Hadian, founder of the Truth and Love Ministry. He is a Christian pastor and a former Muslim. Shahram was born in Iran, came to America in 1978 to escape an oppressive Islamic regime, and committed his life to Jesus Christ in 1999. He has an extensive background not only as a pastor, but also as a former police officer, teacher, coach, and servant leader in his community. Shahram, welcome back here to Crosstalk.
Jim, it's so good to be back with you. Thanks for having me on.
So, Shahram, it appears, at one time we would only refer to Hamtramck or Dearborn, Michigan as ground zero for Islam and its proliferation, but now we have to see New York City as ground zero, and it appears Minneapolis is ground zero, and we could say multiple other cities and all of that, and now perhaps the state of Texas is ground zero, and maybe now the state of Virginia entering into that discussion, and we'll get into specifics for these various locations, but generally speaking, why are we seeing such an advancement of Islam across the United States?
Well, I believe that since the election of President Trump last year, or at least got elected in 2024, took office in 2025, the Islamic movement, and particularly we refer to it as a red and green axis, correct? The red, the socialist, Marxist, communists working with the Islamic movement, they have gone into hyperdrive. I don't know how else to explain it. They have gone on the offensive, and I believe that they are moving into closer to the upper house of Islam in many places. They're bragging about their control of certain areas. They're bragging about their support from the left or from the red side of that axis. And I believe that they are capitalizing on a weak American media, a weak American political, governmental leadership, particularly throughout the state level. And I think they're capitalizing on a weak church in America. The church being weak opens the door for false ideologies. And so you're absolutely correct. It is like it's like they poured gasoline on the fire over the last 12 months, and they have gone into hyperdrive, and we better adjust accordingly to this threat.
Now, Shahram, also, if you would, just give a word of explanation to those not familiar with the term of upper house or lower house, or getting an upper hand. What does that mean in Islam?
Well, in Islam, they operate in a duality. When they are not in control of a particular area, whether it's a community, a city, a state, or a nation, they refer to that as the lower house or the house of war, Dar al-Harb. When they believe that they have operational control, they have the support, they call it settlement. When they believe when they've settled in an area and they now have control over that area, and it's not based on 50% population, like, for example, we see in Hamtramck, Michigan, where it's over 50% Muslim population. It could be 10%, 12%, 15%. But if they have the political power, if they have the support of the media, the churches, the education system, and governmental leaders, they declare themselves to go to the upper house, which is Dar al-Islam, or the house of the surrendered one. And in that moment, they no longer operate by deception. In the lower house, they operate by deception, by stealth, by blending in, by claiming that they support causes that are not consistent with Islam. For example, the LGBTQ rights or abortion rights or trans rights. They support leftist causes like we see with Mamdani in New York. When they get to the upper house, like in places in Michigan and now we're seeing in Texas in particular, they began to act just like Islam commands them to act. And that's what throws people off unless they understand these two houses.
Right. Friends, we're talking with Shahram Hadian, and again, Shahram is a former Muslim, born in Iran and came to the U.S. in the late 70s. Sharam, it was just like a year ago here on the Crosstalk, we gave our first reporting and warning pertaining to Epic City in Texas, East Plano Islamic Center, an independent city with Islamic schools and the full system to be Islamics, and people would be vetted even moving into this. So I'm going to have, and there's been a lot of controversy regarding this. So I'm going to have you give us an update there. But then also this month, there's a new attention being given to, I believe it's Kaufman County, Texas, in which is being said there that there's a small town immigrant takeover underway by the followers of Islam. A talk of this movement being funded by Saudi Arabia investors. So comment on both of these matters here in the state of Texas, if you would.
Yeah, Texas has become, you mentioned ground zero. In many ways, Texas has become ground zero for the Islamic movement. Within their movement, they're declaring that Texas is top 5 on their list of places around the world that they're trying to conquer, because they believe if Texas falls, if they can flip Texas to their support and their ideology, that all of America will fall. And because, one would look at Minnesota or Michigan or California or even New York and say, well, those are leftist places, those are very liberal. But come on, what about Texas? Well, we don't understand that the infiltration has been there. So the update on Epic is we have to, and I talked about this when I was on with you last time, we have to remember they've already built phase 1, which is a massive mosque surrounded by neighborhoods, businesses, shops. The battle is over phase 2, this 400-acre property. The state has gone after them, and the Attorney General started in Texas started an investigation. They have not, after 8 attempts to try to shut it down, they have not been able to shut it down. All that Epic has done, which stands for East Plano Islamic Center and East Plano Islamic City, that's what Epic stands for. I mean, can you imagine having the name Islam in a city in America? They changed the name now to the Meadows, and they're claiming they're not going to, quote, discriminate against non-Muslims wanting to live there. Now, I don't know anybody would want to live there, but this is the latest. So, unfortunately, though some will say, oh, they've been able to stop it, yes, the Attorney General has tried multiple ways. This is the challenge that happens from the local level. This battle was really at the local level where they've co-opted and they've lobbied their local elected officials, county commissioners, city councils to give them all the zoning and all the permits and everything they need to keep this going. And as you mentioned, we have other communities like the one you mentioned in Texas. I just came back from Wiley, Texas, which is north of Dallas, where the school district there is allowing Qurans to be passed out, wear a hijab day, allowing a teacher to pray the Islamic prayer in the middle of the class.
Wiley,
if people have seen that video.
Wiley East High School. This is Wiley, a suburb of Dallas, Texas, Sharam.
Yeah, I just spoke there, Jim. Literally, middle of January, I spoke at a church in Wiley, Texas, and I warned them this is what's coming. And then we get wind that the school district there opened the door for the Muslims to come on campus, particularly the Muslim Student Association, to pass Qur'an. To then they had February 1st was wear a hijab day, and now we got that video coming out where I mean, can you imagine if a Christian teacher in the middle of school, in the middle of a class where they're supposed to be teaching. My wife was a public school teacher for a few years. Can you imagine if she just all of a sudden said, we're going to stop, and I'm going to go in the corner and pray, to Jesus Christ, or pray if she was Jewish, and they would pray, towards Jerusalem. There would be a massive attention and lawsuits, and the Muslim Brotherhood would get. But no, a Muslim teacher drops on her knees in the middle of a class and begins to do her prayers while instruction is supposed to be going on. This is unbelievable. boldness that they have.
Yeah, and let me just mention, too, because I'm looking at a story that just came out on this from the Christian Post indicating that this was all part of the World Hijab Day, a February 1st social media post, and the caption said, describe the goals of World Hijab Day as to get non-Muslim women to try on hijab for a day and to give dawah, or invitation, to non-Muslims about Islam. So that's really what was going on here. It's inviting non-Muslims to come along, to join the Islamic movement.
Exactly. It is proselytization. It would be like having a day in a public school, in a government-funded school, where we're going to go on campus and be funded, be supported by the school to share the gospel. They would never allow that. But because under the guise of, oh, it's wear a hijab day, we want to encourage non-Muslim women, put on, see what it feels like, see how wonderful and liberating. Well, if you talk, Jim, if any people talk to any women that have come out of Islam who had to be forced to wear a hijab, like in my birth country of Iran, where the hijab is a sign of oppression. It's a sign that the woman must wear the head covering because the man can be tempted. The man can't control himself. So this is under the guise of promoting this, which they've been doing for years. Now they're actually proselytizing. Dawah is their proselytization, and it is the call to the Shahada, the first pillar of Islam, which is if you profess that Allah is God and that Muhammad is his prophet, you become a Muslim.
Yeah.
So how is this acceptable? And yet we don't. I was just talking to some activists in Texas last week about this, and I said, where's the pushback from the Christians? Where are the lawsuits? Not that I'm about lawsuits, but using the law.
Yeah.
If we're not supposed to have any promotion of religion in public schools, then let's be fair across the board.
Yeah, I mean, and as you point out, I suppose a teacher had said, okay, today we're going to memorize the Romans Road, the way to salvation in Jesus Christ. Today we're going to memorize John 3:16 as a class. There would be nationwide outrage regarding this, and yet this hijab day. Wiley East High School, Wiley, Texas, a suburb of Dallas. We're up against a break. Shahram Hadian is with us today. We're talking about Islam impacting the United States. And just down the road just a little bit, we're going to get to this as well, what is taking place in Kaufman County, Texas. And the Attorney General's Office of Texas is actually launching an investigation into this. Well, we have that and much more on today's program. Stay with us. This is Crosstalk on the VCY American Network.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, Noah's Ark explorer from the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, where did Noah build the ark?
Chris, we simply don't know where Noah lived nor where he built his boat. This is because the flood of Noah's day totally restructured the surface of the earth. There are no geographical remnants of that pre-flood world. Everything about that world is totally gone. Now, it is true that 2 of the 4 rivers named before the flood are the same names as today's rivers, but I suspect that Noah named these rivers like he did because they reminded him of the previous rivers. They couldn't have been the same because beneath these rivers are tens of thousands of feet of flood-deposited strata. They simply didn't exist before the flood. At least that's how I see it from a back to Genesis perspective.
Thanks, Dr. John. If you'd like to go back to Genesis, visit us on the web at www.icr.org. That's www.icr.org.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America, and friends living in Texas today, and we've got multiple stations in Texas picking up the program today. Are you listening to what is going on? Do you know what is happening in your state? As Shahram Hadian is with us today, founder of Truth in Love Ministry, he is saying in many ways, Texas is being seen as being ground zero, seeking to infiltrate the state of Texas. And really, this is to change the state of Texas and really to move in the upper house in the state of Texas. Shahram, we were talking about not only what happened in the Wiley East School, but we talk also about Epic City, but Kaufman County, Texas. I mean, I see the Attorney General's launching an investigation into this, or they're talking about making this an Islamic city, funded perhaps by Saudi Arabian investors.
Yeah, one of the hardest things right now that we're trying to identify in the state of Texas, again, I was just talking to some folks about this last week, is we're trying to identify the funding sources. In fact, a lot of the funding within the state is coming actually out of Houston. So we see a lot of because Houston has the second largest Muslim population in the United States as a city, just second to New York City. So we're already seeing some enclaves formed in Houston. Of course, we see these enclaves around Dallas, as you mentioned, with Plano, East Plano, Richardson. You have Irving, these areas there, and the push to go to these cities. This is new strategy. I think we talked about this when I was on the program last time, that typically the Islamic movement comes in and they take over existing areas. But now, with the likes of EPIC and with the likes of what you just mentioned in Kaufman County, you see this push at the local level to take over areas and build cities. And if the state of Texas doesn't get on top of this, the biggest battle right now in Texas is you see the pushback from the state level, but you don't see the pushback from the local level. And all of again, as I mentioned in the first segment, all of the permitting and the licensing and all of the planning happens at the local level. And the Imam of EPIC, Yasser Qadi, himself admitted recently in a video that they will not stop us because of our lobbying power. He admitted that on tape, that because of their lobbying power and their funding, because the money that's coming in, Jim, is specifically coming from overseas. Like you said, the Saudis, the Qataris, the Arab Emirates, the Bahrainis, these Arab Muslim nations are pouring in billions of dollars into the coffers, and they're influencing elected officials with this money as well.
Yeah.
So it's something that the state of Texas and other places, they got to wake up right now and say we cannot have any foreign ownership of land, and we cannot and will not allow these Muslim-centric cities to be popping up all over the country. This is new strategy, but they're moving rapidly to implement it.
And so we have the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, taking a very active role, saying there will not be a Sharia city in Texas. And he has recently filed a lawsuit against the Muslim Brotherhood and Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, and its chapters in Austin and Houston and DFW. From operating in Texas, the governor, as you know, Sharam, he's designated both of these organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. The Daily Caller just reported yesterday that he's launching, that Paxton is launching an investigation now into this Kaufman County matter. It's very concerning.
It is very concerning. Again, the Kaufman County situation with regards to the idea, because when they say, Islamic centric city, right, or centric city, like with EPIC and now with this possible city, this scope. And notice the language, by the way, Jim, in that Kaufman County situation. The developers use the language of, quote, sustainable cities. This is the language of the green. This is the language of the globalists. So I've said for a while, I think the globalist powers to be are giving the green light for the Muslims to not only take over, but take over with literally building their own cities, in this case for potentially 20,000 foreign nationals, funded by Dubai, again, the United Arab Emirates, funded by the Saudis, potentially in Qatar. I'm grateful that the governor of Texas issued the proclamation this year labeling the Muslim Brotherhood and particularly CARE as foreign terrorist organizations. That's a good step in the right direction. However, the challenge is enforcement, because you have counties that like Collins County, for example, that's surrounding the DFW Dallas area. They continue to work with CARE. During Muslim Heritage Month, they were just recently this month they were working with CARE. So the Attorney General has got to go after them legally. I think by doing the proclamation, it does open the door to the legal investigation. And I'm actually excited because the legal investigation opens the door for disclosure. Now you can bring in you remember all of those records that were buried from the Holy Land Foundation trial that was in Texas, all the evidence that care indeed is Hamas. All of that, if the Attorney General can go after them legally, it then opens the door for disclosure, bring in all that evidence, and once and for all, go on the offensive. And I pray that other attorney generals would follow Texas and Florida in doing what they did. Because if we don't do that, these guys are running roughshod over our laws.
Let's move over to Arizona, Guitar City.
Again, another example, Qatar City. This is in the Phoenix area. Huge investment of tech workers. They're talking about creating. Now, part of this is a frustration for me because when we have even our current administration open the door for Qatar to come in, the investment that we see in our universities, billions. The investment that we see into our media, billions. The investment where all of a sudden we're going to let them build a base 50 miles south of Boise, Idaho. Why? Why are we letting them do joint training with us at Qatar that shielded members of Hamas? That is the second largest funder of the Muslim Brotherhood, Jim. Now we get word that they are planning on developing a massive several billion-dollar investment where they're going to bring tech workers in. They're doing the same thing with the Saudis. The idea is, okay, we're going to open the door for artificial intelligence or technology. So you got to bring foreign workers in, correct? Well, these foreign workers got to live somewhere, correct? So now, and that's to some extent what's going on in Kaufman County in Texas. It's predominantly the idea of we got foreign workers coming in, and now in order to accommodate these foreign workers that are going to be here for a certain number of years, we got to build them a city. And when I was just in Idaho last month, I met with the legislators over there. The same thing is I was told is happening near that Air Force base that Qatar is going to build. They're planning on zoning for a city that would be for the foreign workers. Right. What are we doing?
Right. I mean,
what are we doing?
We did that already in Dearborn, didn't we? Dearborn, Michigan.
We did.
Yeah.
Exactly. Under the guise of a so-called temporary. You see, it's never temporary because remember I said earlier, once they go from the lower house to the upper house, when they declare an area upper house, it's theirs. They're not giving it back without a fight. Now our government, whether local or federal or state, our government now helps them, gives them land, says go ahead and build a city to house these foreign workers. What are we doing? We're literally digging our own grave as far as our future.
So while this Guitar City is under consideration at this time, we also have coming out of Tucson.com the story out of Phoenix that a panel of the Arizona Senate has voted to ban the use of Sharia in Arizona. I think that still has to go through the full legislative process, though. But Senator Janae Shamp said Arizona should not wait for a high-profile case to arise on our doorstep. Prevention is a far, far better cure. And this is Senate Bill 1018 in Arizona that would add Sharia to not recognizing foreign laws here in the United States, and that's another step that can happen, even on the local level and then to the state level.
100%. We, in fact, were again when I was meeting with the Idaho legislature. That is exactly what we discussed. They're looking at that in the state of Idaho as well, of banning. At least starting with the certain applications of foreign law within our courts and within our public accommodation, for example, government schools, those things. If that were to happen, they would never allow cities to, for example, broadcast the Islamic call of prayer on public speakers, on public streets, because that would be promotion of Sharia. That would be promotion of Islam. Yeah. I am encouraged. I will say this. I am encouraged by this pushback. I am encouraged by now the 38 members of Congress led by Chip Roy and Representative Fine and then Senator Tuberville on the Senate side federally. It is growing, and I do think that there is a wake-up call. The challenge, Jim, is it too late? Is it because here's the problem that I've tried to communicate with them. If they say they're going to ban Sharia, we understand that within Islam, Sharia is the word means the path or the way of Allah. So we would say the Sharia Allah, the way or the path of Allah. So for a Muslim, when I was a Muslim, there is no separation of what is governed by Sharia. Sharia governs every area of life, including religious and including civil, governmental, political, criminal. Every area of life is governed by Sharia. So in essence, if we're saying ban Sharia, you must then say we're banning Islam.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we're going to hit a stumbling block. But I'm encouraged that there is this movement. I just want to make sure people don't get comfortable, that they don't think, oh, good, they passed some law and now we're good. Texas passed that law in 2018, 2007, 2018.
And look where it's
they
gone.
said no Sharia in their courts.
Yeah.
And look what's going on in Texas.
Let's head to Virginia, because right now also they've just introduced legislation there. This is from a Bengali American state senator from Virginia, introduced a bill to criminalize Islamophobia. We're just a minute before the break. What would you like to say on this, Sharam?
Well, that is exactly the application of Sharia, because where do they get the concept that they want to criminalize Islamophobia? Islamophobia, in their view, is what's called slander of Islam. If you slander Islam in any way, shape, or form, even if it's factual, even if it's from their own sources, you have now committed a crime against Islam. And if Sharia is being applied, then that would be criminalized. So they don't come out and say, oh, we're criminalizing people who speak against Islam under Sharia. They say, oh, we're going to criminalize Islamophobia, a made-up term, and therefore they're actually applying Sharia. That's exactly what we got to stop in order to protect our freedom of speech and our freedom to be able to criticize and call out an evil ideology that seeks to subjugate, as I said, once they get to the upper house. So I know we'll talk more after the break. That is very troubling with Virginia, and of course they just elected their first Muslim lieutenant governor in the state of Virginia. Very troubling.
Well, friends, we are up against a break, and when we come back as well, we're going to learn about New York City, some of the things happening there. We'll have a audio clip here pertaining to Mayor Mamdani as well, and some other matters that are been unfolding across our nation. Shahram Hadian is with us, talking about Islam impacting the United States. And friends, we've got some more warnings to come. We'll be back in a minute here on Crosstalk.
Pastor Ken Spilger was discouraged. His church was not growing like he desired, and he wanted God to do something. He was invited to fly to a pastor's conference. On the way back, the plane hit trees just short of the runway. It crashed and erupted into a fireball. The pilot and two other pastors were killed instantly. Ken Spilger was the sole survivor of the crash and was pulled from the burning wreckage of the plane. He spent months at a hospital's burn unit. Ken's story is documented in Pulled from the Burning, a powerful documentary that shows how God changed his life, his family, and his church. Pulled from the Burning is available for a donation of $15. The set includes a Blu-ray disc, a DVD, and a digital download. For Pulled from the Burning, call VCY America, 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Shahram Hadian is our guest today, founder of Truth and Love Ministry. Shahram, give our listeners your website, if you would.
Our website is tilministry.com for Truth and Love, and they can check us out there. And also, we're on rumble.com as well. We have 2 live shows that we do every week to keep on top of all of the stuff that's going on. That, as you've attested today, is happening so fast.
Yeah, it really is. Again, friends, it's TIL Ministry. That stands for Truth and Love. TILministry.com, and also on rumble.com you can look for Shahram there as well. Every one of these cities we could focus on for a full program, but friends, we're going to move very quickly here, even in this segment, because there's so much more we need to unfold before you. But Sharam, just this very day, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is in Washington, D.C., meeting with President Trump, and they've got great concern because Islam has vowed over and over to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. We know the threats have come from Iran. From the Ayatollah there. This is a very historic day in Iran right now, is it not?
It is. Today marks the 47th anniversary of when Iran fell to Islam, when Khomeini at that time, the supreme leader, came in and they codified their, what I believe was a coup, their overthrow of the government of the Shah. And again, Jim, I got to be very honest with all the listeners. I'm very concerned about all this talk about negotiations. The Prime Minister, I believe, from Israel came to convey that Israel does not want negotiations, but I'm looking at a statement from President Trump that just said that he told the Prime Minister that he prefers there to be a deal with Iran, and that's their preference, and he's claiming that there's truly peace in the Middle East. I'm not sure what he is seeing. We know what the Bible says is going to happen in the Middle East. There's going to be a false peace, but this is not a good day for the Iranians who the numbers are now up to potentially 86,000 or more who were massacred by this regime in the last 3-4 weeks. So we're watching. The only thing I've said is, Mr. President, let your yes be yes. You said to the Iranian people, help is on the way. Go and take the streets and the institutions. They did. Many young people got killed.
Tens of thousands.
I'm praying. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I said tens of thousands were killed.
Tens of thousands, Jim. And do we believe that those tens of thousands died so that we can give another deal to this barbaric Islamic regime that has been the bane of the existence of the world for the last 47 years, including how many American lives have been taken by the hands of this regime, how many Jewish lives were taken by the hands of this regime? So this is very frustrating, and I really believe this moment is going to be the legacy of President Trump, either good or bad, with regards to how he deals with what he said he was going to do and then not following through on it if they do not work to help the Iranian people to overthrow. So we're praying that there will not be year 48. That's my prayer. Is, of course, the Lord's will be done. God has a plan. There's prophecy at stake with Iran, but we're praying that this could be the final year of this regime, and that it will collapse and be done away with.
Let's get to. We need to get to New York City here as well,
yes, sir,
and
please.
That is. Here's JNS.org. Anti-Jewish hate crimes are up 182% in New York City in Mamdani's first month as mayor, and we are just seeing an explosion of anti-Semitism taking place there. This city will never be the same.
Will never be the same. We warned about this. It is still perplexing to me that almost 1/3 of Mamdani's vote came from the liberal Jewish community in New York City. As you said, the massive uptick of attacks against Jews, hatred against Jews. But I would ask this: why are we shocked? Why are we shocked when a Democrat socialist who is a Muslim, who then on day one of taking office put his hand on a Quran, who has filled his administration and comes from a political background that is focused on all of the pro-Hamas, quote, free Palestine, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's extermination for the Jewish people. And now, sadly, the Jews in New York City are awakening. And I think what this is going to lead to is another diaspora, another scattering of the Jews, even from New York City.
Yeah.
I think many of them, like we see in Western Europe, that have fled Western Europe because of the anti-Semitism and the violence against Jews. We're going to see that in New York City. So I think this is a perfect example of the fruit the fruit of what they voted for, that you see the manifestation to fruition of what here's what you sow, here's what you reap.
And let me air this story here from the New American. New York City Mayor Zoran Mandani has said that immigration and customs enforcement should be completely abolished. He said that that a warrant of removal or deportation is invalid, and now he's referenced what it apparently fancies as an enlightened guide for U.S. immigration policy. Guess what, folks? It's his religion. Follow the example of Islam. Listen to him. This is from a day of prayer event that they had in the city. Here we go.
I think of the freedom from suffering that Buddhism teaches us is only possible if we remove the three poisons of desire, hatred, and ignorance from our daily lives. We need not accept suffering as unchangeable. We need not treat hatred as the natural state. We have the power to set ourselves free. And I consider my own faith, Islam, a religion built upon a narrative of migration. The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, "As for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world." Or, as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers. If faith offers us the moral compass to stand alongside the stranger, government can provide the resources. Let us create a new expectation of City Hall, where power is wielded to love, to embrace, and to protect. We will stand with the stranger today.
Okay, Shahram, there's a new mayor of New York City. I'm not sure what this event was. I think it was an interfaith breakfast is what it was.
Yes.
Your comment.
Oh, where do I start, Jim, with the lies that he spewed about... So first of all, let's start with what is the Hijrah. The Hijrah, the word means migration. And it's actually a doctrine in Islam. People that this doctrine started in 622 when supposedly Muhammad, who wasn't seeing much success in Mecca, decided to migrate north. By this time, he had amassed an army. He had raided caravans and began to amass wealth. And when he went to... Now, Mamdani says he was welcomed in Medina. Well, first of all, the city was never called Medina. It was called Yasser. It was a Jewish community that then he routed. And according to Muhammad's own autobiography in Sirah al-Rasul, it says that when Muhammad went into the city, many of the Jewish tribes there fled. One tribe called the Banu Qurayza would not flee, so they surrendered themselves to Muhammad. And according to Sirah al-Rasul, Muhammad ordered them to be bound, brought into the town square, and beheaded 600 to 900 Jews in one day. This is what he calls migration. So what he is saying, people have to read between the lines. What Zoran Mamdani is saying is, we are now calling for jihad, because according to the hadith, it is Hadith Kitab al-Amthil, here's what Muhammad said. I charge you with 5 of what Allah has charged me with: to assemble, to listen, to obey, to immigrate, and to wage jihad for the sake of Allah. So when he evokes hijrah, he is evoking jihad. He is saying, yes, migrate, take over. There's a call to populate because they have way more babies than we do, sadly. And then there's the call to segregate and establish their enclaves or their upper houses. So this is a declaration of war that Zoran Mamdani just brought upon New York City, and for those Muslims across the country that are listening to him. And make no mistake about it, that's what hijrah is. It is jihad, it is warfare, and it is to take over. So wake up, America. This is what we voted for. This is what has taken over the largest city of America. Woe to us, Jim. That's all I can say.
Yeah, friends, that's from Shahram Hadian, but there's also a congressman warning as well. Congressman Randy Fine of Florida. Listen to what he had to say.
Well, thank you all for being here. Next Monday morning, Next Monday morning, instead of getting on my normal flight to fly to Washington, I'll go to a courthouse in Florida where I'll be deposed in a criminal case against a man who sent death threats to me and my family. Said, I know where you live. I'm coming to kill you. I'm going to kill your children in front of you. Why did he send me these death threats? By the way, he's the third such person to do so. He sent me these threats while he was overseas and he was arrested by customs on his way into the United States. Why did he send these threats? Because I made a simple statement. If you hear someone yell, praise Jesus, you typically will smile. If you hear someone say, Baruch Hashem, which I may do, you may not know what it means, but you're not going to be afraid. But if someone in this room yelled Allahu Akbar right now, we'd all be looking for a place to hide. Now, this gentleman's excuse, his defense, will be, in my faith, I have the right to go after the infidel. Now, for those of you who think that's crazy, we've seen this before. In Texas, some Muslim children vandalized a church. They sprayed messages on a church. And the civil rights group that supposedly represents mainstream Muslims in Texas says they have the right to do that under the First Amendment because they were practicing their religion. If I could say one thing to my colleagues, we need to not be afraid. We have to stop the term of radical Islam, Islamist. It is mainstream Islam. We have gotten this wrong. The radicals are the ones who don't want to kill us. It is the mainstream that does. And if anyone is concerned about this, look at what I now call the United Islamic Kingdom and Francistan. In France, they had to cancel New Year's Eve celebrations because they were worried about attacks. In the United Islamic Kingdom, they're now debating in Parliament whether cousin marriage should be legal. There are 57 countries in the world that you can live if you want to live under Sharia. Working with my colleagues, we're going to make sure this one is not number 58.
Congressman Randy Fine. Shahram, we're 30 seconds before the break. Your comment.
I would just say, wow, wow, wow. Normally, I don't agree 100% with any elected politician, but he is 100% spot on, and I am so glad that he said what he said. There is no radical Islam or Islamism or Islamist. It is mainstream Islam. Islam is political, governmental, totalitarian, seeks to subjugate. Amen for this man and for this caucus now. And I do pray it will make headway with the American people. They recognize what we're up against.
Friends, a quick break. Let's open our phone lines, 800-733-9829. Your questions for Shahram Hadian today, 800-733-9829. We'll be back in 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY American Network.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewreport.com. Recently, I completed an article entitled 27 Steps by Enemies Foreign and Domestic to Collapse America from Within. Folks, it's taken me the 36 years of work and research to compile this list of 27 historical steps, and I hope you'll go and read it. It's available right now at worldviewtimes.com. Worldviewtimes.com. This is important. Because as Francis Schaeffer said, many people can see the world in bits and pieces, but not as a big puzzle. Many Americans, and sadly many Christians, are not aware that all of these things we're watching unfold are connected. Whether it's the attack on law enforcement and our military, whether it's the open borders, the infiltration of Marxianity in our churches, the NGOs and other groups that are making partnerships with the government, it's all connected to bring down America from within.
Shahram Hadian, our guest today here on Crosstalk. He is a former Muslim, warning about Islam. He is the founder of Truth in Love Ministry. Friends, that's what he's doing, telling the truth in love. And you can see more on his website, which is TIL Ministry. That stands for Truth in Love, but TILministry.com. Also, he's making recordings, putting them up at rumble.com as well. Taking your phone calls today on Crosstalk, and we're going to begin in Racine, Wisconsin. Christine, you're on the air.
I wanted to tell you, Sharam, I'm sure you've heard of Raymond Ibrahim, and he said the same thing. He echoed the same thing. There is no, when the worry of Sharia, Islam itself is Sharia. Mm-hmm. And the radical Islam and all this stuff is just, it's just a way to soft soap it. But I just wanted to tell you that the ignorance, when I work with so many Muslims, they do not even know the Quran. They don't know the Hadith. And I'm astounded when I talk about the Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, and who these individuals are, and what they've said, honestly, about Muhammad. So we have a easy job to do with a lot of these people to give them the gospel.
Thanks.
We really do. I try to engage with them, but you have to know what you're talking about too, I would think, right?
Thank you, Christine. And what about this ignorance that she talked about?
It's true. There's ignorance both within the Muslim community to their own text, but there's also ignorance, great ignorance in the Christian community to what Islam is. So we got to pray for both. Like she said, as part of our evangelism to Muslims with the gospel, we need to also be able to share with them what Islam actually teaches, because many Muslims, we have to remember 80% of the world's Muslim population doesn't speak Arabic, so they cannot read the Quran in Arabic, and so they're ignorant of what it says. So she's absolutely correct. That's got to be part of the equation of how to educate and bring truth and love again on this critical area.
Sharing the gospel with Muslims, so critical. Thank you, Christine. We're going next to George in Olney, Illinois. George, you're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call. I was just going to make a comment that Islam, Sharia law, basically muzzles the people of their freedom. They're not able to speak the truth, and maybe that's where the name Muslim came from.
Oh, because it muzzles them. You're doing a play on words. Interesting concept there. Thank you for the call here, George. Let's go to Rick in Kentucky. Rick, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. My quick question is this, the gentleman you're interviewing. Is it too late to stop the spread of this Islamic, disease in our country? It's concerning to me. Thank you for your program. We enjoy it.
Thank you. Is it too late, Sharam?
I would say that in certain part of the countries, I think it's too late. I think other parts of the countries, it's not too late. I think for Texas, it's not too late. I think for some other states, it's not too late, or other cities. But unfortunately, we have three major obstacles. One is our political correctness, or our fear of offending. Two is the elite are supporting this red-green movement, as I said earlier, with these cities and other aspects of what they're doing. And three, in my opinion, the biggest obstacle is the Christian community itself. Mm-hmm. We were founded as a Judeo-Christian nation, and by the fact that we are embracing the idea of commonality with Islam, that Islam is some sort of just a peaceful, tolerant religion, which is being pushed by numerous evangelical, Catholic, Protestant, mainline leaders, Jewish leaders, all this interfaith, multi-faith. This is, in my opinion, part of the greatest deception in these last days. So can we stop it in totality? I don't think so until the Lord Jesus Christ comes back. Jesus will destroy it when he returns to rule and reign, but I don't see it being fully stopped in America. Certain parts, yes, thank God for those who are standing up.
Let's go to Tom next in Tomah, Wisconsin. Tom, you're on the air.
Just a quick comment from that teacher down in Texas. Where's the ACLU? Why don't they take them to court for that? I mean, what's the deal? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good point, sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Where are the leftists? Yeah, exactly. It's a double standard, right? We know that. That's the point. The point is they give Islam the green light. Islam is becoming the, quote, religion of choice in our government, in our public schools, but no Christianity, God forbid, no mention of Jesus Christ. It's a blatant double standard, and the part of the problem, again, we've tolerated it. We've accepted that double standard rather than standing up and saying, no, that's not acceptable.
Thank you for the call, and let's see, we're going now to William in Florence, Kentucky. You're on the air.
Yeah, hello, Jim. I appreciate your show. I used to live down in Fort Lauderdale, Kentucky. I had my own electric company, and I was working in a Democrat house, and he found out that I was Republican, and he threw me out. I was trying to do his work, and he found out I was Republican because it was when Obama was in, and some of my neighbors, too, that were around, they were Muslims, and they told me that they were going to take over this world. Take over our country and cut our heads off. And I got one more question. When that Sharia law comes, are they allowed to have 3 wives?
It's actually 4 wives, and yes. Right now, we see this in Western Europe, that they're operating by Sharia. Though the governments of the UK or France or Germany or Sweden, Norway, Austria, wherever, though the governments don't recognize those marriages within their community because they're already operating and they already have Sharia courts operating, yes, they're permitted to have up to 4 wives, and many do. And that also leads to their higher birth rate, because if each woman that they're with has 2 to 4 to 5 children, you can imagine, and that's part of going back to the Hijra, as I mentioned, is that they count on their birth rate being much, much higher. They call it jihad walada, Jim. It's a jihad of the womb. So they have lots of babies. Meanwhile, what are we doing? We're killing our babies off with abortion. We're not having babies. We're having small families. We're engaging in homosexuality that doesn't produce children. So that's to our demise. We got to get back to having godly families, large families, be fruitful, multiply, honor God's word. But yes, the answer is they can have up to 4 wives.
Okay, we've run out of time. We're not able to grab any more calls today because we're down to 20 seconds. Shahram Hadian, a final word. What would you like to leave with the listeners?
Please pray. This is a critical time. I believe that the fact that they've gone very rapidly, they've sort of accelerated their plans. This can lead to a good wake-up call. This is the moment that we got to pray for the wake-up, kind of shocking us out of our slumber. And here's the thing. Trump will not fix this. The federal government's not going to fix this. We got to do this locally. We got to do this in our churches and in our families. Take back our kids' future.
Friends, the website Till Ministry, TIL, stands for Truth in Love, tillministry.com. And also check out Shahram on rumble.com. Shahram, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Jim, for as always.
And friends, we thank you for joining us today on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.